I had an experience on a highway at midnight I won't soon forget. Child abuse. Long car rides at night have their way about them. As a child, a few of my best memories were driving from my mother's to my father's at night. The memories of falling asleep while listening to music, as my father drives us down the dark highway home, are those I hold near and dear to my heart. But as an adult, I've found them to not always be so charming. When you're driving in the darkness, not another car in sight with only the moon to keep you company, your mind tends to drift. This can be an enjoyable experience, sure, reliving old childhood memories, that sense of nostalgia with the music from the radio to accompany it. This is why lone car rides at night still tend to be enjoyable to me. But after the events that transpired tonight, they have an entirely new meaning to me. I'm sure most people beyond their 20 seconds can relate to when life isn't the best, and you're alone at night, driving with only the cat eyes, moon and stars to guide you, with the occasional lamppost. The thoughts that come to you in those moments, the darkness feeling all too familiar as you delve into your deepest and most suppressed thoughts. It was one of these nights where my story took place. I was driving home after a heated argument with my now ex-girlfriend. And yet this wasn't the only thing I thought about. Lockdown has obviously taken its toll on all of us. Nothing major had happened really, just those little things that slowly begin to corrode your heart, soul, and very being. To start with, my dog had died a few months prior, as well as work days beginning to feel long and inescapable. The very same job I used to enjoy slowly becoming tedious, with every passing day. I work as a chef at a decent enough establishment. I'm paid well, but my passion for cooking had slowly begun to trickle from me. And to top it all off, I'd begun to grow distant from friends, family, and my girlfriend, preferring to spend my free time sleeping or gaming, attempting to find an escape from my depressing reality. My days were either filled with constant nagging anxiety or a feeling of emptiness. As I drove along, I thought of the way my life had turned out, where I was and where I was going, searching for any reason to continue going. For weeks I'd been telling myself, hey man, it's going to get better. Just continue on. But in truth, I began to doubt this, my attempts to spur myself on becoming more and more dim. I thought of my girlfriend, thought of how I really did love her. I just don't know how to communicate what I'm feeling. I wanted to, don't get me wrong, but I feared what she would think, that my problems weren't big enough and I was just weak, so I just kept it all bottled up inside. Now I know what they say, bottle things up and pretty soon you'll explode. Well, in the moment I was thinking all of this, I was definitely nearing the edge. I began having thoughts I never had before, thinking a quick jerk of the wheel would end all of it. A quick escape. As I considered, not a single tear left my eyes. I just felt empty, tired of it all, just wanting to sleep, not even wanting to continue driving. I looked up, seeing that it was a cloudy night, evident by the pitch blackness and absence of a single star, or even the moon. And as I did this, I saw that I was nearing Melissa's Bridge, which was built in memory of a girl who had killed herself on these very roads back in the 90 seconds by walking in front of a truck. Ah, ironic, I chuckled to myself, thinking over how moments ago I'd been considering death, while driving on the same road that decades earlier somebody with an empty soul just like me had the same thoughts, but actually followed through with it. While deep in my own mind, I barely saw her, a red figure stepping out in front of my car. Holy fuck. I yelled as I swerved to avoid it, but it seems I was too late, as I felt something under my wheels like I just went over a speed bump. Without a second thought, I rushed to get out of my car, looking back in the road I'd just driven over, scanning it with my eyes, yet I saw nothing. I then decided to check under my car, and still, nothing, even after examining the bumper. No dents, no blood, nothing. Hello, I yelled to see if anybody was there, but was met with only the silence of the night. That silence I usually enjoyed, now seeming eerie considering what had just happened. I must be going batshit, right? Hello, is anybody there? I said once again, still no response. With that, I got back into my car, resuming my long drive home, trying to rationalize what had just happened in my mind. The darkness coupled with the late hour was making me see things. Right, that had to be it. With shaking hands, a result of the adrenaline wearing off, I switched on the radio, hearing Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana start to play. Just as I was about to switch stations, I heard a voice come from my passenger seat say, "Won't you leave it on?" I love this song, and for some reason, I didn't jump, I didn't swerve my vehicle. It was as if I'd entirely expected somebody to appear in the seat next to me. And even though I wanted to speak, I couldn't. It was as if I'd forgotten how to. I mean, I can't explain it, so there's no point in trying, right? Hello, Luciano. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts spinning in that mind of yours. He'll explain everything in a minute, she said, in a ghostly voice, like hearing somebody speak through glass yet right in front of you at the same time. I eyed her up and down. She was a young woman in her late teens or early 22nd, wearing a red dress as if fresh from a ballroom dance, her hair trailing down over her shoulders, with blue eyes bright enough to pierce the almost pitch blackness inside the car. She was also quite beautiful. If I'd been able to speak, I'm sure I'd have sputtered out some nervous hello. Nice night for a drive, right? An opportunity to clear your head of troubles. I've seen many before you with similar and vastly different problems. With an array of thoughts bouncing around their skull, she said in that enchanting voice, I was once one of them, and while you will soon leave, I will not. In that moment, it clicked who she was in my mind. She must have seen the shock in my eyes, because she proceeded to smile. My name is Melissa Burgess. I haunt these roads. Every now and then somebody like you or I passes by, somebody who needs help but won't seek it out. I seek them out, have a heart-to-heart with them if you will. Maybe show them a few things. I find it to be quite enlightening, funny. Even though I'm dead, I've never felt more connected to people. I suppose I'm a guardian angel in some way. I see the darkness inside of you, Luciano. Come with me if you will. She opened the car door and stepped out, fully expected what normally happens when somebody steps out of a moving car. I closed my eyes, but when I opened them, I wasn't in my car anymore, but stood inside of a house, quite a nice house mind you. Looking around, I saw Melissa stood next to me. Hello, I said, before jumping at the sound of my own voice and realizing I'd regained the ability to speak. She didn't respond, only staring at the door across from us. Over here, stupid, I heard her voice once again, making me jump. I looked over only to see her standing a few feet behind me. Will you stop fucking doing that, I said, beginning to grow tired of her randomly manifesting at the worst times. Sorry, she said with a chuckle, you're just too easy. She then nodded to my side, and I looked over to see another Melissa still stood there staring at the door. What I said, being cut off. SHH. Just watch and listen, she said while moving closer. Looking at the other Melissa, I saw that she was actually significantly younger, maybe 10, 11, I don't know, but she was stood in what I assumed to be a lounge, at a closed door with voices coming from behind it. Upon focusing, I began to make them out. What the fuck happened? Officer, where is my wife? I want to see her right fucking now, said a gruff male voice. Mr. Burgess, she's down in the morgue right now. I'm sorry for your loss, came another, younger than the heartbroken voice of what I assumed to be Melissa's father. What are you telling me? I don't understand. And with that, young Melissa walked towards the door, beginning to open it when time seemed to freeze. I had a happy childhood for the most part, I can't complain, but this is where things began to go wrong. Where I'd first learned my mother had been stabbed on her way back to her car after buying groceries. The moment things changed, they just kind of slowly degraded after that. My mother was my rock. I was closer with her than anyone. When I'd had a bad day at school, I'd come home and she was there. When nobody turned up for my 9th birthday party, she bought me all the candy I could possibly eat. And we spent the whole evening watching horror movies on TV cuddled up in a blanket. When some girls tried to bully me at school, she went to their parents' houses and handled it as she said. She was a valiant, furious woman, my hero. But I didn't spend as much time with her as I'd have liked. I'd never shown her the love she truly deserved. In the coming years I struggled with this, it ate me up inside. I blamed myself, she said, the look of sadness and guilt plastered across her face as if she was that little girl processing losing her mother once again. I'm so sorry, you were so young, how did you recover? I said, stifling a tear. I never did really, but not only did I lose my mother that day, I also lost my father. And with that, the environment around us changed completely. We were stood in a graveyard in front of a group of people, all dressed in black. I could feel the grief in the air, as if it was permeating my heart and making me feel it too. I saw Melissa in the group, a confused little girl, dressed in black for her mother's funeral. Her hair tied up in a bun, her hands trembling. My heart went out to her in that moment. I looked across to older Melissa, and could see that she was reliving this moment. And while I had questions, I decided it was best not to say anything at all. Looking back over to the funeral in progress, I saw a tubby, balding man in his 42nd standing next to young Melissa with a thick stubble across his cheeks. Already drunk by the looks and smells of it, the scent of spirits so pungent it assaulted my nostrils from meters away. God, we thank you for the life that you give us. It is full of work and of responsibility, of sorrow and joy. Today we thank you for Allison Burgess. For what she has given and received. Came a voice from the priest. Would anybody like to say a few? Whoa, he was cut off by Melissa's father yelling, for God's sake, that's enough, get her in the fucking ground already. Gasps and looks of disgust followed. Members of the group who were already crying only cried harder. You fucking bastard, yelled a man who I assumed to be Melissa's grandfather before landing a blow across her father's face and being restrained by other members of the group. A commotion occurred as people scrambled to separate the fight. Fuck this. Melissa, come on, we're going, grunted Melissa's father, gesturing for her to come towards him. But Mom hasn't been buried, Melissa whimpered. I said, come on. He yelled, aggressively grabbing Melissa by the wrist and dragging her with him to a nearby car. Once again time froze, and I looked to older Melissa. I honestly had no words for what I'd just seen, so I stood there in stunned silence. After my mom died, my father just collapsed in on himself. He'd been 11 years sober until that point, stopped drinking when I was born, didn't touch a drop until the day my mother died. After that he just spiraled out of control. He was in a world of pain and he took it out on me. Remember when I said I lost my father that day too? Well, this is how. But why? Why would he hurt you? You're the only thing left of your mother in this world. How can a father do that to his child? I'm so sorry, Melissa, I said, beginning to tear up. He wasn't the same man anymore, angry at everything. He couldn't wrap his head around it, the fact that she was gone. His way of coping was drinking, violence, possessiveness. The environment completely changed again. We were back in her house, her kitchen. Except this time there were notable changes. Empty bottles of whiskey, vodka, wine strewn around all over the place and the stench of alcohol drifting through the air. Piles of filth and unwashed clothes littering the floor, empty takeout boxes littering the side. And young Melissa was stood at the sink washing the dishes. Upon closer inspection, I saw bruises across her arms, face and neck. Small cuts as well. I instantly knew where they were from. Looking back over to older Melissa, she gave a nod. Young Melissa looked noticeably older. She had clearly hit her teen years. Her beautiful blue eyes were now sunken with bags beneath them. Melissa, boomed a voice from upstairs, followed by footsteps fast descending the stairs. Her father then appeared, looking dirty. A long messy beard accompanying the patches of long hair on his head, stains littering his shirt. He raced towards her flinching as he approached. I attempted to stand in front of him to stop the inevitable assault that was about to befall Melissa, but he walked straight through me as if I wasn't even there. He gripped her by her throat, pushing her over the kitchen counter. You fucking bitch. How fucking dare you? He yelled, clutching a blue sweater in his hands. How dare you fucking wash it? It's the last fucking thing I had left. He screamed, stifling a sob as she started before being met with his hand across her face multiple times. Fucking, he yelled between blows. I tried to stop him, tears streaming down my face. But each time I attempted to place my hands on him, or stand between them both, he went through me. Eventually he stopped, picking the sweater up off the floor and holding it to his chest while heading over to the table to retrieve a half-empty bottle of whiskey. After taking a few swigs, he turned to Melissa, who was curled up crying in the corner of the room, and said, You brought that on yourself? It's all your fucking fault, he muttered. Time froze again, that terrified look on Melissa's face breaking my heart. I just couldn't take it anymore. I broke down, collapsing on the floor and crying my eyes out. Why would you bring me here? Why show me this? Please take me back. I get it. My problems are nothing compared to yours. I had no right, no fucking right. Do you want me to enact revenge on your father? Please just take me back right fucking now. I've seen enough. Luciano, I'm not showing this to torture you or make your problems seem insignificant. Neither do I want you to avenge me. This is simply my story, and the reason why I'm showing you all of this will become clear soon. I promise. But why can't you just fucking tell me? Is this supposed to help me? I don't understand, I cried, drooling down my jacket as I spoke. All of your questions will be answered, Luciano. Stay strong for me, she said, and with that, there was another change of scenery. This time, we were in a high school. The sudden sound of voices filling the air brought me out of my emotional stupor almost immediately. Looking around, I saw posters for the school prom plastered across the walls, on notice boards, lockers, and then I noticed a group of girls snickering and looking over at somebody, following their gaze. I saw Melissa again, looking very much the same as she does now, again with bruises and cuts littering her face and body. She was dressed in a simple t-shirt and pair of ripped jeans, staring at her locker with the word bitch written across it, a look of utter defeat on her face. A group of girls then approached her, and the most obnoxious looking of the group stood in front as these assholes usually are. Folds her arms and says in the most annoying voice heard, You don't have a date to prom, huh? Well, I guess you're too busy being beaten up by daddy, flipping her ugly blonde locks as she does so. Melissa looks at the floor, looking as though she's going to shrink into herself, when a voice from behind the girls pipes up. Actually, me and Melissa are going together in a limousine. Isn't that right, Melissa? The girls part to reveal who the voice belongs to. He's a tall, quite good-looking guy. Pearly brown hair, tan skin, and green eyes, donning a red baseball jacket. Zach, you're going with her, says one of the girls. Yeah, that right, he says as he walks and takes his place next to Melissa. The girls then disperse, the smug looks wiped from their faces. Damn, those morons can't even spell bitch right, he says, licking his sleeve and rubbing the word written on her locker away. You didn't have to do that, you know, Melissa says quietly. Do what? You said to pick you up at your house at 6:30, he says with a wink. A shy smile spreads across Melissa's face. The first kindness she's received in a long time, no doubt. And listen, he'll talk to some people and make sure those bitches don't fuck with you anymore. And with that, he walks off, glancing over his shoulder and smiling once in her direction. Melissa then opened her locker. That same shy smile plastered across her face, this time with visible excitement. 3, 2, 1, I say, and almost on cue time once again stops. I turn to look at Melissa and see that same shy smile on her face, akin to that of her younger self. I'm not that predictable, am I? She utters, flustered. Kinda, I say teasingly. She attempts to regain her composure. That there was Zach, the beginning to the end of my story. And despite his act of goodwill, his seemingly sweet intentions, Zach isn't quite what he seems, she says, a somber look beginning to appear on her face. But he's the only decent human being we've come across so far. Are you telling me he's the one who tipped you over the edge? I say with genuine curiosity. You'll see. And with that, the environment shifts once again. This time, we're outside of the school. The sun already beginning to set, students gathered around, dressed to the nines as they head into the school. 90 seconds pop emanating from the structure. Oddly enough, I never went to my school prom, I say, slightly embarrassed. Well then, I guess will be a somewhat fun experience for you after all then. Glad you stuck around, she says jokingly. Well, I don't think I had much choice in the matter, I say with a laugh. A limousine pulled up with Melissa and Zach stepping out. That's when I froze. Melissa was wearing exactly what her ghost is wearing. The realization that this is the night she dies flooding over me. Looking at her, I see she's so full of life, so happy. A smile, no longer shy or nervous, plastered across her face, her confidence radiating as the bullies stared at her with envious eyes. She looked absolutely beautiful, but I couldn't help but dread what was to come, what was going to happen. I turned to see Melissa's ghost, just staring on, not even acknowledging that I'm there. We follow Zach and Melissa into the school, into the dance. This hurt shy girl, for the first time seeming to genuinely enjoy the moment, dancing her heart out with this seemingly nice guy. Both of them smiling, his hands on her hips, hers around his shoulders. What could go wrong? What did go wrong? The thought was plaguing my mind like a horde of locusts, gnawing away at my mind. Then I saw Zach produce a flask from his jacket, taking a swig mid-dance. Melissa looked at him with a look of worry in her eyes. Clearly she had never drank, especially not considering her father's condition. Zach then tried to force the flask to her mouth, her turning her head and waving her hands to say no, but still he persisted. Looking back, I should have seen this as a red flag, says the ghost of Melissa from beside me. After an amount of pressure from Zach, Melissa eventually took what was intended to be a small swig from the flask. But as she's lowering it, Zach puts his finger to the bottom, forcing her to swallow more. Minutes, no, hours passed, time seeming to go by quickly. Her drinking more and more with pressure from Zach until she's willingly drinking. Laughing and stumbling, she continues to dance with Zach, both of them being visibly drunk. And after a certain amount of time, Zach pulls her along through the door to leave the dance. I step out too, seeing them enter the limousine where Zach pulls out a bottle of what looks like vodka. And once again time stops. Melissa's ghost walking over to me. This next part will be difficult to see, but you'll need to nonetheless. But I'm afraid this time, I won't be here to accompany you, she says with a semblance of sadness accompanying her already haunting voice. What? Why not? You've been with me up until this point, so why do I have to experience this next part alone? I say with a hint of desperation. Because this is where I resign myself, where my soul is truly broken, the ultimate cause of my death. A spirit cannot be present for these moments, since every memory I show you causes me to relive it at the same time. I nodded. I understand, I say, dreading what I'm to see next. Can it really be worse than that awful moment in her kitchen? I'm ready, I say after a brief moment of consideration. The environment shifts, this time seeming to take longer than the other times. I felt every single heartbeat during it. I appear back in her bedroom this time. It looks much the same as it did in the first memory I was shown. Only this time I'm completely alone in this eerie silence. I'm given a second to think about everything that had happened up until this point. The death of her mother, the funeral, the bullying and the abuse she had suffered at the hands of her father, the man who was supposed to take care of her. I wonder why this memory takes place in her bedroom. Why she felt the need to bring up the red flag from Zach. Wondering how he was going to hurt her. As a car pulled up outside, and I heard laughter and muffled voices from both Melissa and Zach once again, I finally realized, oh fuck no, I say. Speaking my thoughts out loud, I attempt to run through the bedroom door with no luck. I try to open it, thinking maybe I could wake her father. Maybe I could make my presence known to them. Anything to stop what was about to happen. But of course it was futile, as they came through the door while making out. I try to grab Zach. I try to grab her. I stamp my feet onto the floor. I scream until my throat is red raw. Anything. As they get to the bed, Zach begins trying to take off her dress, her grabbing his hand. No, she says calmly, but he didn't listen. He continues trying to make out with her, ripping her dress in the process. At this point, Melissa becomes more lucid. She starts trying to push him off of her, shouting at him, screaming, but he still doesn't listen. The last thing I see is him unbuckling his belt. I close my eyes and cover my ears, crying for it all to stop, screaming, begging. I hear Melissa's muffled cries and Zach's grunting. Minutes go by until I hear absolutely nothing. Slowly I open my eyes. I uncover my ears, through vision blurred by tears. I see the trees, the road, the moon bright in the sky, and the stars shining. Without even a moment to process what had went on, I see her. The moonlight gleaming off of her torn dress, her makeup running down her face from tears. She's walking alongside the road, the same road I had been driving down when I met her, hearing tires coming from behind me and looking over to see a truck barreling down the road. I know what's about to happen. Melissa, I scream as I run down the side of the road, trying to reach her in time. I ran as fast as I could in futility. I knew I was too far from her when the truck passed alongside me. Tears streaming down my face, I yell, "Please don't do it. I don't want you to die." As I continue running, she turns and looks in my direction, and with that resigned look on her face, she smiles. She smiles at me before she steps out of view. Then I hear the halt of the vehicle. A panicked man in his mid-30s stepping out. "Oh my fucking God," he shouts as he steps around his truck to see who he had just hit. I catch up, and as I walk around the vehicle I see her, the same girl who was so beautiful, vibrant and full of hope only hours ago, laying there dead, beneath the tires of the truck, blood streaming from her mouth, her body broken. I collapse to the floor, my muscles losing all strength as I begin to cry uncontrollably. She was so young, full of so much potential, and now she lay there dead on the road. Somebody could have saved her. The driver could have seen the poor girl walking alongside the road and stopped to help. But he didn't. Nobody helped. Nobody saved her from her abuse. Nobody except Zach helped her combat the bullies at school. And even that was just so he could take what he wanted from her. Get her drunk and fucking rape her. So many people failed her. All she needed was one person, one fucking person. Where were they? What's a fucking bridge in trade for a life? This special life, this person who felt so alone, so resigned, so broken that she took her own life. What's fair in that? She could have been so much, but now it's too late. She's gone and has been for over 20 years. All possibility, gone. "Now you see," said a familiar voice which broke me out of my fit of tears. "Melissa," I say, standing up and attempting to embrace her, but only falling through her onto the floor. "You can't touch me, Luciano. I'm not here. I'm gone. I have been for 20 years, she says as she looks down at me. "No, I don't fucking accept that. There has to be a way to save you. There has to be a way to bring you back. I mean, ghosts exist, right? So maybe it's possible. Please, Melissa, I don't want you to be dead," I say in desperation. "Don't you get it, Luciano? This wasn't about me. It was never supposed to be about me. I am not some tortured soul. I do not have unfinished business. I don't suffer like you may think I do. I'm here because I choose to be here. This echo of a memory, my final moments, it's not for me, Lucien, it's for you. I see that darkness festering within your heart, as it did me and countless others. I did not find peace nor happiness in life, and in death. I'm here to make sure that others don't follow me down the path I chose. You're the person hearing this right now, this story written by the universe, these events that transpired. These words have purpose. It's no accident that you're here. The lesson here is that no matter the problems, big or small, it's all relevant, all pain, Luciano. And it doesn't end, even in death. The story remains unfinished on its shittest chapter. This was my conclusion, but it doesn't have to be yours or anybody else's. The only way to truly find help is to search for it yourself, and you can. This life you're living can end, but your story doesn't have to. Thank you for being here with me, Luciano. Now you have a choice to make. The cold leather seats rested against me, the familiar scent of my car wafting over me, the wheel in my hands. I pulled over to the side of the road to give myself time to process all that had just happened. I rest my head on the steering wheel contemplating. I arrive at my decision, pulling my car onto the road, and beginning to drive back in the opposite direction. I look up, at the clear night sky, the moonlight illuminating the road ahead of me, the stars shining brightly. "Rest well, Melissa," I say, and I see a shooting star fly across the sky. "Rest well," I say. "Rest well," I say. "Rest well," I say.